Well, here we go. Here we go. We're starting again because I forgot to turn my mic on. Hello and welcome. My name is Carl St. Lucie, and this is Dramatis Personae, the only Facebook Live show where everyday citizens get to play their favorite characters in the best episodes from the Star Trek universe from the comfort of their own living rooms. Thank you, Scotty, my roommate, for telling me that my mic was not on. We ask that you bear with us since this is our first time ever attempting this, but we can guarantee it'll be as fun for you as it is for us. This week we'll be reading from Star Trek Voyager's Tuvix from Season 2, Episode 24. When Voyager frenemies Tuvok and Neelix beam back to the ship from a routine away mission, their DNA sequences and Starfleet uniforms are fused, forcing Voyager's crew to reckon with tough questions of identity as they welcome Tuvix, their accidental new crewmate, to the ship. Now to introduce our cast. We have Leah Newton as Tuvok, Morgan Murphy as Neelix and SWINN, Becks Renfro as Captain KATHRYN Janeway, Robbie Laughton as CHAKOTAY, Kirsten Lee Johnson as B'Elanna TORRES, Casey Lowry as Ensign Kim, she'll be playing the bassoon aka Space Clarinet, Paul Bloomer as Hogan, Angel Martí Castillo as the emergency medical hologram, Maksim Rex as Tuvix, Steffi Philpott as Tess, and David Crow as Harris. We had originally set this up to accept contributions to the American Cancer Society, but we lost the link to that. So if you would like, if you send donations to me at Carl St. Lucie, KarlSaintLucy on Cash App, I will make sure that those get sent along to the American Cancer Society. In the original post, we already received $56, and I'd love to get $100 by the end of the stream, thanks to those who've already given. The teleplay for Tuvix was written by Kenneth based on a story by Andrew Shepard Price and Mark Gabriel. It premiered on May 6, 1996. And with that, let's get started. One moment. All right, so we are ready to go. Go ahead, Captain Janeway.
Captain's log, stardate 49655.2. Our sensors have located a variety of flour which may prove to be a valuable nutritional supplement. I have sent Mr. Neelix and Mr. Tuvok to collect samples.
Oh, smell that air, Mr. Vulcan. Look at that sky. Oh, it's an exhilarating day, isn't it?
As you well know by now, Mr. Neelix, I do not experience exhilaration.
Oh, let's not quibble about semantics. A breeze is blowing, sun is shining. It's beautiful.
The weather is certainly adequate for our purposes.
Quit? You know something? You're acting more Tuvokian than usual this morning.
I am who I am, Mr. Neelix. It is impossible for me to be more or less like myself.
There you go with the semantics again. But you know what I'm talking about.
I'm afraid I don't.
Well, then I'll explain it to you. You're a nature lover, aren't you?
Appreciate nature, yes.
Then it's one of the things that you and I have in common. And here we are on a perfect day, foraging for an exceptionally lovely variety of orchid, your favorite flower, and all you can say about the experience is that it's adequate. I don't see why you're not having fun.
We are not here to have fun. We are here to collect samples.
Is there some regulation that says we can't do both at the same time? I know. Why don't we sing a song while we toil? It'll cheer you up. Now, I've been studying Vulcan music. Do you know that lovely tune that starts, oh, starless night of boundless black.
That lovely tune is a traditional funeral dirge.
I know, but it was the most cheerful song I could find in the Vulcan database. Come on, Tuvok, join me. Oh, starless night of boundless black.
Mr. Neelix.
Yes?
Do you think you could possibly behave a little less like yourself?
Are Neelix and Tuvok back from the surface?
Not yet. We're having some trouble with the transporter.
Captain, there's a minor glitch in the molecular imaging scanners. Ensign Kim should have it up and running in a few minutes.
Try narrowing the annular confinement beam. How's that?
Let's try it again. Kim to away team. Sorry for the delay. We're ready to bring you back.
Acknowledged.
Energize.
There's something wrong, sir. I'm only getting the one pattern.
Tuvok or Neelix?
I don't think it's either of them.
Abort.
It's too late.
All right, and that is our end of Act 1. This is where we, when we have our shit more together, we will have me playing the Voyager theme on piano, but we are going to cut right ahead to Act 2, where we find ourselves again in the transporter room. Hold on, let me get the comm badge ready. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Kim to security. Intruder alert. Transporter room 1. Identify yourself.
I am Lieutenant Tuvok, and I am Neelix.
Sir, according to the bioscanners, he's right. Somehow their patterns have merged.
I think the logical thing is for me to go to sickbay.
Back in sickbay, there is a security guard at the door and one by the biobed.
And you recognize all of us?
Of course. Doctor, Captain Janeway, Ensign Kim, Kess.
My scans indicate that all biological matter was merged on a molecular level. Proteins, enzymes, DNA sequences. The man you see before you is literally a fusion of two men. But he's surprisingly healthy considering the circumstances. All vital signs are stable.
What's the last thing you remember?
That is to say Tuvok and Neelix, we had just finished gathering the samples. We were beaming back to the ship. The next thing I knew, I was standing on the transporter pad, as you see me now.
I'm also picking up traces of a third genetic pattern. It appears to be plant-based.
The orchids. We had collected several dozen samples of orchids. They were in our sample containers when we beamed up.
Well, they're part of your genetic structure now, but they don't appear to be affecting your biochemistry.
Torres said you were having trouble with the molecular imaging scanners.
That's right.
Maybe this alien plant life affected the scanners in some way.
Possibly. I'll know more after we've run a diagnostic on the biofilters and transporter logs.
Get on it.
Kim leaves.
In the meantime, I'll send an away team and a shuttlecraft to collect fresh samples of the orchid for further study. Doctor, let me know as soon as you have something more.
Yes, Captain.
Janeway leaves.
Yes. Take our patient to the science lab and perform a full biospectral analysis. I'll start examining the genetic data.
In the science lab.
This situation must be very difficult for you, Kess. Perhaps it would be easier if someone else administered these tests.
Thank you for your concern, but I'll be fine. This scan is very delicate, so try to remain still for the next 20 minutes.
I'll do my best.
Don't worry, we're going to figure it out.
Oh, I'm not worried. I couldn't be in better hands. This crew, you're consummate professionals. You're my friends, my family. So worrying would be illogical, don't you think?
Would you mind if I ask some questions about what you're going through?
Not at all.
Well, do you feel as if you're thinking in two separate minds? Are Neelix and Tuvok inside of you, talking to me, talking to each other?
If you mean, am I suffering from some sort of multiple personality disorder, I don't think so. I do have the memories of both men, but I seem to have a single consciousness. You must find me very odd, Kess.
No, of course not. Try to keep still. So, what should I call you?
Ah, a name. I hadn't thought of that. What an intriguing question. I can see why the doctor's finding it so difficult to choose one. A name can have a significant effect upon a person's sense of identity. I've got it.
What?
Why don't you call me Nevok? Wait. This is better. How about Tuvix?
Tuvix it is.
I'm so glad you're here to help me through this, sweeting. I'm sorry. It was instinct.
Why don't we finish the scan?
And that's our end of Act 2. We have another commercial break where we probably learn about fruit gushers. And then we're back in space.
Chief Medical Officer's log, supplemental. Extensive microcellular scans on the merged humanoid have thus far yielded no clues to either a cause or a method of separation.
Back to sickbay.
Captain, so good of you to come.
How are you feeling?
I feel well. You might even say exhilarated.
I'm glad to hear it.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. In the past 24 hours, I've undergone rigorous diagnostic testing, submitted to an extensive psychological profile, and I've been poked and prodded in organs that I didn't even know I had. While all this testing may no doubt be necessary, frankly, I'm restless.
To tell you the truth, we could use a little help in the mess hall.
And I'd be glad to give you a hand. But after careful consideration, I've decided that the most sensible thing is for me to do is to resume the tactical post.
Tactical?
Remember, Captain, I do possess Tuvok's knowledge and expertise, and while I have no doubt that the crew misses Neelix's cooking, you need your most experienced tactical officer. That's me.
If I may, Captain, Mr. Tuvix.
Tuvix?
Apparently, that's what he likes to be called. Mr. Tuvix is indeed in perfect health, and since I've collected all the data I need, there's no reason I can't continue my investigation without him for the time being. And according to my tests, he's quite correct when he says that he possesses Tuvok's knowledge and expertise. He also possesses Tuvok's irritating sense of intellectual superiority and Neelix's annoying ebullience. I would be very grateful to you if you would assign him some duty, any duty, somewhere else.
Well, Mr. Tuvix, I'm not ready to assign you to the bridge just yet, but why don't you join the senior staff for our noon briefing, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Captain, has anyone ever told you that you're as fair-minded as you are lovely?
As a matter of fact, Neelix has told me occasionally, and if you really do possess his memories, you'd know that flattery will get you nowhere.
In the briefing room.
The transporter was functioning normally. Biofilters, pattern buffers, everything checked out.
What about the problem with the molecular imaging scanners?
According to the transporter logs, they were optimal at the time of transport. It was a perfectly normal beam-out sequence. No anomalies, no power overloads, no malfunctions.
Our scans of the planet's surface and atmosphere don't show anything out of the ordinary.
There's no evidence of any type of alien interference. But frankly, Captain, we're at a loss.
And the orchids, Kess, have you found anything unusual about them?
CHAKOTAY brought back a few samples on the shuttle, and I ran a biochemical analysis. They contain the same elements as many plants: chloroplasts, lysosomal enzymes, cytoplasmic proteins, but there's nothing unusual.
There's never been an accident like this recorded in the entire history of transporter technology. I'm not willing to accept it as a random malfunction.
Captain, I recommend we program a holodeck simulation. Try recreating the accident.
Sex!
I beg your pardon?
What I mean to say is, and I apologize for cutting you off, Commander, I think we're on the wrong track. Kess, you said that the flowers you examined contained lysosomal enzymes.
That's right.
According to Tuvok's botanical research, the presence of lysosomal enzymes could be evidence of symbiogenesis.
Symbiogenesis?
Symbiogenesis is a rare reproductive process. Instead of pollination or mating, symbiogenic organisms merge with a second species.
Andorian amoeba, for instance. They're able to merge with other single-celled organisms to form a third unique species, a hybrid.
Like you.
Exactly.
It's an interesting idea, but we're talking about microcellular organisms here. I've never heard of symbiogenesis occurring in a species as complex as a humanoid.
Actually, Captain, when you think about it, Neelix and Tuvok were broken down to a microcellular level during transport. DNA, protein, all in a state of molecular flux.
If the enzymes that cause symbiogenesis interacted with their DNA while they were in the matter stream, it might have caused their patterns to merge.
Like an Andorian amoeba.
Just like that, Tuvix is born.
It's the best theory I've heard so far. It's the only heard so far, and it's worth investigating. Mr. Paris, take a shuttle to the planet and collect additional flower specimens.
Yes, Mom, but I'd recommend waiting until morning. The weather on the planet can get pretty nasty at night.
Very well. You'll depart at 600 hours.
Paris leaves.
Good work, Mr. Tuvix.
Now in the corridor.
Kes.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Do you need something?
Oh, actually, I was wondering if you'd like to join me for dinner.
Well,
You've already eaten.
Well, no.
You're not hungry.
Actually...
If memory serves me, Wednesday is the day that Neelix always cooked Trellian crepes, your favorite meal.
That's right.
Well, why break with tradition just because of a little transporter accident?
Now we go to the mess hall. Just imagine that there's a lot of noise. Chaos in the kitchen with everyone trying to cook their own dinner.
Somebody's eggs are burning.
A woman in command gold answers.
Oh, those are mine. Can you flip them for me?
Flip your own damn eggs. I count that as bachelor.
Oh, just try tossing them.
Tuvix and Kes enter.
Why don't you have a seat? I'll be with you in a minute. Do you mind telling me what's going on here, crewman?
We're making dinner.
I see. All right. Everybody out.
On whose authority?
Chief of security or head chef. Take your pick. Out, 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 out. Come, out.
Later, after everyone else has left and the washing up has been done.
So you really enjoyed the crepes?
Oh, they are absolutely delicious.
Don't you think Neelix always made them a little too spicy?
They were a little different than usual. Did you change the recipe?
Oh, only slightly. I thought more moderate seasoning would allow the flavor of the mushrooms to come through.
I love the mushrooms.
Oh, I'm glad. I can't believe how disorganized this galley was. It's a wonder Neelix ever found anything.
Well, he says he has a system, but I guess you already know that.
I admire your strength, Kes.
Why do you say that?
I know I'm not Neelix, but I can posit with complete certainty that if the situation were reversed, if suddenly he found himself without you in his life, he'd be absolutely lost.
Tuvix takes Kes's hand.
I have to go. Thanks again for dinner.
And that's the end of Act 3. At Act 4, we find ourselves again on the bridge. Tuvix is at tactical in a normal uniform.
Good morning, Captain, Commander.
You're here bright and early, Lieutenant.
Actually, I've been here since 0400 hours. I wanted to work on that proximity detector glitch in the security subroutine.
And how's it going?
I managed to correct it.
Tuvok said it could take up to 10 days to check out all the possible problems. How'd you fix it so fast?
I had a hunch.
A hunch?
That's correct. You'll have the report on your desk first thing this afternoon.
Kim to Mr. Tuvix.
Tuvix here.
We're just about ready to start the transporter tests if you'd like to join us.
I'm on my way. Excuse me, Captain.
Tuvix leaves.
Well, he's certainly fitting in, isn't he?
There's an old axiom. The whole is never greater than the sum of its parts. I think Tuvix might be disproving that notion.
Back on the planet's surface.
Give me the flowers from the aeroponics bay.
Here you go. 1 prize-winning chrysanthemum, 1 garden variety clematis, and last but not least, 1 symbiogenetic alien orchid.
I never thought that botanical science class would come in so handy.
They lock the 3 plants into a specimen container.
TORRES to transporter room 1. We're ready down here.
Acknowledged. Energizing.
Kes, Kim, and Tuvix peer at the strange admixture that appears on the transporter pad. Back in sickbay.
We've made over 100 attempts to reverse the symbiogenesis using the medical transporter, and each time this has been the unfortunate result. Complete cellular collapse.
The genetic codes of the chrysanthemum and the clematis are so scrambled that the targeting scanners can't recognize the original patterns.
I suppose it would be like trying to extract the flour, eggs, and water after you've baked the cake.
Obviously, in the case of Mr. Tuvix, we're dealing with a much more complex organism than a flower. In effect, we're talking about recreating 2 humanoid life forms without so much as a single discrete strand of DNA to start with.
Are you saying I'm going to be this way forever?
I am an incredibly skilled doctor, and I will continue to pursue a safe and effective treatment until I find one. But I won't lie to you. I'm not optimistic. It could take months, even years, to find a solution. And we must face the possibility that this condition is simply untreatable. I feel as though I've lost 2 patients. I'm sorry.
I'll inform the rest of the crew.
In Kess's quarters, Kess is meditating in front of 2 large candles when the doorbell rings.
Come in.
I hope I'm not disturbing you.
It's all right. Please, sit down.
Ocampan prayer tapers for Tuvok and Neelix.
It's funny. If something happened to Tuvok, if Neelix were here, he'd be the first person to comfort me. And if I lost Neelix, Tuvok would be the first person to guide me spiritually. Now I don't have either of them.
You have me, Kess.
Thank you, but
I remind you of what you've lost.
It's not your fault.
I know, and I'm trying to accept who I am now. Captain Janeway tells me there's a place for me on this ship, but I can't help feeling like some sort of imposter.
Maybe we can help each other through this?
That's what I've been hoping. I know this is going to sound very strange to you, perhaps even illogical, since in a way we've only known each other a few days, but I want you to know I love you, Kess.
But I hardly know you. Besides, what about Tuvok's wife, for one thing? He was completely devoted to her. What happens when Voyager gets back home? Are you just going to forget about her?
I could never forget T'Pel. I carry Tuvok's love for her inside me, and I would never ask you to forget Neelix.
How can you talk this way?
Because I carry Neelix's love for you inside me as well, and I always will. You heard the doctor. It could be years before he finds a way to bring Tuvok and Neelix back, if ever. For you, that might be a lifetime.
Please go.
I'm sorry. I should have controlled my emotions. All I really came to say is that I'll be here for you, if you need me.
Tuvix kisses Kess on the cheek. End of Act 4. Act 5 finds us in Janeway's quarters. Janeway answers the door wearing her dressing gown.
Kess.
Captain, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have bothered you this late. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Actually, I was having trouble sleeping. I could use the company. Would you like some hot tea? Please, sit down. I was just looking over some old letters Tuvok sent me when he was temporarily assigned to Jupiter Station. Most people would say his writing is cold, analytical, detached. But I've always found it to be concise, efficient, thoughtful. I hear his voice when I read the words. And Neelix, I'd become so fond of him, Kess. I can't imagine what you're going through.
I wanted to talk to you about Tuvix. He came to see me this afternoon.
Oh?
He said that he loves me.
Well, I suppose I can see how that's possible, given the circumstance.
I wasn't sure what to say. At first, I was angry, but I know he's trying to comfort me, and I know that he feels alone too. To tell you the truth, he's a wonderful person.
Do you have feelings for him too, Kess?
No, I don't. I mean, how could I? I still love Neelix, and I'm not ready to give up on him, no matter what the doctor says.
I know how you feel. You're experiencing what people on this crew have been going through since we first got stranded in this quadrant. Do we accept that we're separated from our loved ones forever? Or do we hold on to the hope that someday we'll be with them again?
What do you do, Captain?
Oh, I struggle with it every day. Sometimes I'm full of hope and optimism. Other times, then I dream about being with Mark, and it's so real. And I wake up and realize it's just a dream. I'm terribly discouraged. In those moments, it's impossible to deny just how far away he really is. And I know that someday I may have to accept that he's not a part of my life anymore.
So are you saying that I should just accept that Neelix isn't a part of my life anymore?
I would never tell you or anyone else to give up hope, Kes. I think the best thing for you to do now is give yourself time.
Thank you, Captain. I'll go now and let you sleep.
They hug.
My door is always open to you, Kes.
Now we see a broad sweeping view of the starship Voyager in space as we hear in voiceover.
Captain's log, stardate 49678.4. It's been 2 weeks since the transporter accident that created Mr. Tuvix. And while it's still not entirely clear if he's with us permanently, he's certainly doing his best to settle in. The crew seems to be growing accustomed to his presence, and he's proving to be a very able tactical officer who isn't afraid to express his opinions. While he's forging relationships with many of the officers, he seems to be keeping a respectful distance from Kes, allowing her to adjust to the circumstances on her own terms. As for my relationship with Tuvix, I've found him to be an able advisor who skillfully uses humor to make his points. And although I feel a bit guilty saying it, his cooking is better than Neelix's. My taste buds are definitely happy to have him around.
We find ourselves in Kim's quarters where Kim is practicing his space clarinet.
Sickbay to answer Kim. Please turn to your emergency medical holographic channel.
What can I do for you, Doc?
Suppose I found a radioisotope that could selectively attach itself to specific DNA sequences. Could the surgical transporters be reprogrammed to lock onto those enhanced sequences and separate them from the remaining DNA?
Well, I think so. But we'd have to modify the molecular imaging scanners and find a way to compensate for the higher levels of radiation.
Thank you, Ensign.
Wait a second. What's going on?
It's pure speculation at this point. I'll let you know when I've learned more.
This is about Tuvix, isn't it? I'm on my way.
Now we find ourselves in Sandrine's. I got some accordion music, so hopefully it's not too loud.
8-ball corner pocket. That's game again, Commander.
We've created a monster.
Best out of 5.
Kes enters.
Would you mind if we finish this later, Commander?
Not at all.
Paris takes Tuvix's cue.
Hi.
Hi. Well, how have you been?
Good days and bad days. You?
Me too.
Listen, I'm sorry I've been so distant lately.
Kes, you don't owe me an explanation.
I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I'm hoping that we can be friends.
I would like that very much.
And I'd like our friendship to grow.
You would?
Yes, but it's going to take time.
I'm not going anywhere.
Tuvix.
Tuvix here.
Please report to sickbay immediately.
Back in sickbay. Kim and
Until
the
they-
ENH are briefing Janeway, Tuvix, and Kes.
Until late in the 21st century, physicians administered barium to patients with certain gastrointestinal disorders. The radioactive properties of the barium made the lining of the intestines visible with a primitive imaging technology called X-rays.
Instead of barium, we've come up with a radioisotope that attaches itself to the DNA of one of the merged species, but not the other.
Then we simply beam out the selected DNA and segregate the two merged species.
You see these? They used to be a single merged flower.
And you can use the same process?
It will require a more detailed reprogramming of the transporter, but yes, I believe we can restore Mr. Tuvok and Mr. Neelix.
That's wonderful. Isn't that wonderful?
I assure you, Mr. Tuvix, there's nothing to worry about. We've accounted for every variable.
Except one. I don't want to die.
End of Act 5. All right. Now we're back in the briefing room, and I'm going to switch the scene.
It's funny. If we'd had the ability to separate Tuvok and Neelix the moment Tuvix came aboard, I wouldn't have hesitated.
Of course not.
But now, in the past few weeks, he's begun to make a life for himself on this ship. He's taken on responsibilities, made friends.
I count myself as one of them.
So at what point did he become an individual and not a transporter accident? Come in.
Tuvix enters.
You wanted to see me, Captain?
Yes, Mr. Tuvix. Please sit down.
I feel as though I've been dragged in front of the Numerian Inquisition.
Will you excuse us, Commander?
CHAKOTAY leaves.
We've just been discussing the unfortunate predicament that we're all facing, and I thought it was important to get your perspective before making a decision.
Are you suggesting that this is your decision to make?
I am the captain of this ship.
Begging your pardon, Captain. It's my life. Isn't it my decision?
Aren't there two other lives to consider here? What about Tuvok and Neelix? Two voices that we can't hear right now. As captain, I must be their voice, and I believe they would want to live.
But they are living, in a way, inside me.
It's not the same, and I think you'd agree with me. They have families, friends, people who love them and miss them and want them back, just as I do.
But restoring their lives means sacrificing mine. Captain, what you're considering is an execution. An execution like they used to do to murderers centuries ago, and I've committed no crime at all.
Aren't you arguing for an execution too? Of Tuvok and Neelix?
I'm here, alive. Unfortunate as it may be, they're gone.
And I have an opportunity to bring them back.
Don't you think that I care about Tuvok and Neelix? Of course I do. Without them, I wouldn't exist. In a way, I think of them as my parents. I feel like I know them intimately.
Then you know Tuvok was a man who would gladly give his life to save another. And I believe the same was true of Neelix.
You're right, Captain. That is the Starfleet way. And I know there'll be some people who'll call me a coward because I didn't sacrifice myself willingly. Believe me, I've thought of that. But I have the will to live of two men. Look at me, Captain. When I'm happy, I laugh. When I'm sad, I cry. When I stub my toe, I yell out in pain. I'm flesh and blood, and I have the right to live.
Dun dun dun. Back in the mess hall, Kes is moving the food around on her plate.
Kes, I need your help. I've just come from the captain, and she's thinking about forcing me to go through with the separation. If anybody can make a difference, Kes, it's you. She'll listen to you. We've helped each other through this, and I know that you care about what happens to me. Please, Kes, you may be my only hope.
To the ready room.
Come in.
Captain, Tuvok has asked me to speak to you on his behalf, but I can't.
He shouldn't have put you in the middle of this.
But I am in the middle. I have been since the moment of the accident. I know how to say goodbye to Neelix and Tuvok. I know this sounds horrible, and I feel so guilty for saying it. And Tuvok doesn't deserve to die. I just want Neelix back.
Kes bursts into tears on Janeway's shoulder. On the bridge, Tuvix enters and everyone turns to look at him. He goes to tactical.
You're excused, Ensign.
The ensign looks to CHAKOTAY for confirmation.
Mr. Paris, what is our present speed?
Warp 6.5.
I'd like to conduct a field test of the aft sensor array. Please slow to impulse.
Commander?
Until the captain makes a decision, Mr. Tuvix is still the tactical officer.
Janeway comes out of her ready room and goes to tactical.
Mr. Tuvix, I'd like to speak to you alone.
Can I assume that you've come to a decision, Captain?
I have.
I think we all should hear what you have to say.
Please, come with me, Mr. Tuvix.
No.
I'm ordering you to come with me. Security to the bridge.
Commander, are you going to stand by and do nothing while she commits murder? Mr. Ayala. Yes, Lieutenant Paris, you. Doesn't anyone see that this is wrong?
Security enter. Tuvix tries to run for a turbolift and they grab him.
Let him go.
Each of you is going to have to live with this, and I'm sorry for that. For you are all good people. My colleagues, my friends. I forgive you.
Commander CHAKOTAY, advise the doctor we're on our way to sickbay.
In the turbolift?
Deck 5.
In sickbay, Janeway and security guards escort Tuvix in. Kim and Kes are waiting with the EMH.
I'm sorry, Captain, but I cannot perform the surgical separation. I am a physician, and a physician must do no harm. I will not take Mr. Tuvix's life against his will.
Very well, Doctor. Please step aside.
Janeway goes to Kim, who is holding a hypo spray.
I assume this is the radioisotope.
Kim gives it to her.
Please sit down on this biobed.
Tuvix sits. Janeway looks straight into his eyes and administers the hypo. Then she goes to the medical transporter console.
Locking surgical targeting scanners onto the isotope probe. Initiating separation sequence. Energizing.
As Tuvix is beamed away, two figures are beamed in, both wearing command gold uniforms.
Neelix.
Hello, sweeting.
Neelix and Kes kiss.
Greetings, Captain.
Mr. Tuvok. Mr. Neelix. It's good to have you back.
We stay with Janeway as she goes out into the corridor and pauses a moment before walking away. The end. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Cast, do you have anything you'd like to say about the episode? / do any of our viewers have any questions?
I want to just add a comment that not too long after watching this episode, I went back and watched the original series episode, The Enemy Within. Mm-hmm. And I think I think that the two episodes are a good, like, two sides of the same coin of the premise. For any of you who aren't familiar with the original series, that's the one where a transport accident splits Kirk into two halves, an evil and a good half. Mm-hmm. So I sort of like that. The fun thing about Star Trek is how it continues to re-examine its own premises in different and new iterations.
Awesome. Aaron Phillips, who's watching, said, "Great reads," and yay, clap, 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 clap. Marianne Flat says, "Bravo." Any thoughts from the cast?
I really wish this episode had just one short scene at the end where Tuvok and Neelix talk about their experience and their feelings. And some sort of, in a next episode, some sort of interaction between Kes and Neelix about it. It just felt like it was such a great episode until that lack of last scene, I think, and it's a real missed opportunity.
I would almost say that it's an intentional lack of denouement, specifically so the audience has room to think about it.
Yeah, fair. It's fair.
Huh.
I mean,
I do want to know, like, what Tuvok and Neelix thought about the captain's decision, because like they both lived through that, being like I don't want to die, you can't do this to me, but also now they're both alive and they wouldn't have been if she hadn't done that. So that sounds like a complicated thing to deal with, and I want to know how they did it.
Yeah.
Marianne Flatt says that the weight of command was evident throughout. Becks, do you have any thoughts about that?
I think Janeway had a really difficult time deciding what to do, and she had to make some tough decisions, but they were ultimately very annoyed with Tuvix, and maybe more than they were the two separately. So that was funny to see.
David, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a couple of things. I mean, obviously this one is the one that gets Janeway labelled as a murderer by lots of people. And I think it's worth acknowledging that ethically nobody has really come up with a solution that satisfies everybody so far.
Right.
And the other thing I was going to say is I think it's a shame they don't acknowledge this in the future. This just kind of goes away, and I think it would have been much more traumatic for the entire crew than this shows. I mean, ultimately it's a script, and it's got to reset so that people can watch another episode, but I do think it's something that should have had lasting repercussions.
Just as a response to that, that's why it drives me up the effing wall that people criticize the serialized formats of Kurtzman era Trek, because we could have, I mean, if this had been done on, say, an equivalent kind of storyline had been done on, say, Discovery or Picard right now, we would have, that would have been an entire season-long storyline, is branching the, is exploring the psychological implications of those events.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like in the Inner Light, Picard has this whole life experience. He lives another life, and then it's just never mentioned again after that episode.
Right.
The only reference to it is he plays the flute now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, to bring it back to TNG, that's one of the things that's specifically outstanding about the episode Family, is because it's like one of those few episodes that actually specifically goes to address the events of a previous part of the series. And you don't see a lot of that in it, until you get to the Dominion War in DS9, where things start to have a bit of a more overarching effect. That's one of the few times in the serialized Treks where you do get sort of to reuse the term denouement in a sense.
Yeah. And the thing about that DS9 serialization, of course, Rick Berman was paying all his attention to Voyager. So I had no idea what was happening on Deep Space Nine. So that's how they managed to get away with it.
Yeah, this episode is a good example of Star Trek presenting a really interesting idea, and it's very thought-provoking, and they don't even necessarily land on one side or the other on which was the right decision.
Right.
And even at the end, you can see that Janeway is not even completely convinced she made the right decision, but they just don't explore it anymore, and they could have.
I think the thing that really swings Janeway in that is Cass going to her quarters. I think Janeway would have kind of gone either way maybe at one point, but it's Cass going and crying in her arms that really swung her to separating them.
Yeah, I feel like playing Cass really made me realise she probably felt the most guilt afterwards, because she obviously had an emotional stake in it, but she was also the one who she was the one who actually said the words, Tuvix doesn't deserve to die, she kind of, I think if she didn't have that emotional stake, that wouldn't be her position. She would have wanted Tuvix to carry on.
And they also make a point to say if they had been able to fix it right away, it would have been an easy decision. The fact that this new person had time to exist is what made it a hard decision.
Yeah. Awesome.
Also interesting that Janeway was, the shoulder to cry on for Kes.
Right.
But in that back and forth, we realized just how painful this entire experience has been for Janeway, and she really has no shoulder to cry on, except maybe Neelix. I think that bringing them both back was bringing two shoulders to cry on for her.
Well, and Janeway goes to Tuvok a lot, actually, when she needs support, and he wasn't there.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight, Aaron Phillips says, "Holy shit, Paul Bloomer's real accent. I'm shocked. Great Southern accent in the reading." Yeah, why don't you talk to us a little bit about your choice there?
So, just being obviously with the lockdown and stuff, been watching a hell of a lot of Netflix. So Tiger King and the persona of Joe Exotic has just permeated everything in my life right now. So I kind of, as Hogan was kind of a coded gay character that never really went anywhere and then got killed off just as they started to develop him a little bit. I just sort of wanted to make it really campy and really pantomimey. But then everybody else is playing it really straight. And I just want to say about some of the other performances, Becks and Angel, I swear to God, they were spot on impressions. Becks, your impression were just like Kate Mulgrews. I absolutely
Thank you. I've been practicing this for months.
It was really good. And Angel as well, like you were doing the Robert Picardo, like that staccato type of speaking. I thought really perfect. Max and Steffi, that scene in with Cass and Neelix in the mess hall, I thought was wonderful, and there was a lovely little look that you had in each other's eyes. You know, like you're just looking to camera, but it was really effective. So I loved it. Chef's kiss. There you go.
Glad to hear that.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank everybody again. I'm going to read the cast list one more time since I think folks didn't hear me at the beginning. So we had Leah Newton as Tuvok, Morgan Murphy as Neelix and SWINN, Becks Renfro as Captain KATHRYN Janeway, Robbie Laughton as CHAKOTAY, Kirsten Lee Johnson as B'Elanna Torres, Casey Lowry as Ensign Kim, Paul Bloomer as Hogan, Angel Martí Castillo, I hope I said that right, as the emergency medical hologram, Maksim Rex as Tuvix, Stephanie Philpotts as Kess, and David Crow as Tom Paris. Once again, I am Carl St. Lucie, and this has been Dramatis Personae. Please feel free to share the video. Please feel free to also donate to the American Cancer Society. And we're gonna roll the credits now. Thanks again so much.
Peace out, all.
Bye.